Good morning, frothers, and welcome back to Wheatlow Brewery. And in fact, it's afternoon today, because we've got a very late start brewing. It's 2:30 in the afternoon. I'm going right out of my comfort zone today because I don't like sour beers, or at least I don't think I do. I'm trying to practice, maybe start with a few that I can try and learn about the style, and I want to like them, but at the moment, or up until now, I've been struggling to like sour beers. However, when Jamal, who's on the telly behind me, came over from Brazil to learn about his English ale, he also told me all about a special Brazilian style of beer called a Catharina Sour. And this is quite a light touch of a sour, which is done in a little bit like a Berliner Weisse, but also with fresh fruit in it. So hopefully it's a bit of a gateway sour for me. Certainly that's the first time I've brewed a sour beer, so it's going to be a very interesting brew day. And instead of me rattling on about what's in this beer and what it's, the traditions behind it and what it is and so on, I'm going to let Jamal explain it to you and go through the steps we should take. So Jamal, tell us about the craft beer scene in Brazil. I believe it's quite booming now.
Yeah, the craft beer scene in Brazil is quite big. It started around 2005 and started booming back in 2010 because our beers in Brazil drinks a lot of beer, but just this mass market beer. Ambev is from Brazil, and we didn't have good beers in Brazil, just these market beers. And I think this is why the craft beer scene grew so much. So it started to boom around 2010, and both the homebrew scene and professional brewing on craft beer. And just before the pandemic, there was one brewery open a day in Brazil.
Wow, that's a lot.
Yeah, and now I think some close, but we are reaching 2,000 brewers in Brazil before the pandemics.
So in the USA then, this happened as well with craft brewing. You know, people like Sierra Nevada at first, and then the hoppy beers, and then Heady Topper and Russian River and things. And craft beer went mad, craft brewing went mad in the USA, but then they've had a lot of closures, haven't they? But have you had that boom and bust a bit?
Yeah, it's actually the same.
Really?
The craft beer scene in Brazil is a copy of the American craft beer scene. What has happened in America is happening in Brazil. Back in 2010, like with 2 years delay, but now there is no delay because of internet. It's happening at the same time. What's happening there is happening in Brazil. The styles they drink, is the style we are brewing in Brazil. So there are a lot of IPAs there, Most consumed beer in Brazil, despite these mass lagers, are IPAs. Then, like in 2016, start to have juicy IPAs, hazy IPAs, and craft lagers are a thing now. This is nice.
Yeah.
Session beers are starting to grow.
There's a lot of more craft lager here just the last few years. It's quite good, really.
There's this Brazilian style called Catharina Sour. It's on BJCP, on entrance styles. And people really like these sour beers in Brazil because we took a Berliner Weisse, higher in alcohol. Berliner Weisse is usual 3 to 3.5%. We rise a little bit to 4 to 5%, and added a lot of fruits. And it went really well because you have this freshness and this sourness, and it just works really well. And Brazil has a lot of fruits. So
Lovely fresh fruit, and not like here where if you buy a mango in the supermarket, it's hard and unripe, and then you take it home and it goes from unripe to rotten in overnight somehow.
Yeah, that's crazy. The sour styles is pretty easy to brew if you have access to fresh fruits. Back then, we used to do by kettle souring, which is a process when you stop the brewing process just before boiling the wort and add lactobacillus. But now we are using, most brewers and breweries are using this new yeast called Lachancea. Lachancea thermotolerantis. I think this is...
Which company would make that, or is it a Brazilian?
No. I think Lallemand has Lachancea. AEB. Do you have AEB here?
You do see it, yeah. It's not as common for the home brewers, but you do see it, yeah.
Lachancea from AEB is the best I ever used. It's really good, really good. And there's Philly Sour from the US.
So this Lachancea yeast then, you pitch that in the fermenter then as normal?
Yeah, because it can make lactic acid, and after that it makes alcohol in just one process. And this ester profile this yeast make is really good, really tropical, goes well with this kind of beer. And the pH range is good because when you are brewing a Katharina Sour, you are aiming for 3.6 pH. You can go lower. I particularly don't like going lower to 3.5, 3.2. 3.2 is too sour for me for this kind of beer. It might work for Belgian beers, but for this kind of beer, for me personally, it goes better with 3.6, 3.5, and Lachancea goes to this range. The AAB Lachancea is weird because it seems like it has two phases of fermentation. First, the sugar goes down, then stop, and you start being worried because it looks like it's stuck fermentation. And after a couple of days, it's starting to going down again.
Okay. Is that to do with the lactic and then the...
Yeah, maybe it's shifting the biological process. Okay, then you have your bases. This is wheat and Pilsner malt bases, normally 50-50, or you can go just Pilsner malt.
So any particular special mashing technique or just normal?
Yeah. No, it's normal. Back then was kettle souring the special technique. You go just single infusion, you might be well.
And low hopping then, very low hopping.
Yeah, that's really important because sourness and bitterness doesn't go well. So as low as possible, IBU, 4 IBU, 5 IBU top, in my opinion. Some brewers go for 8 to 10 IBU. I think just makes the beer worse, but okay.
So it must be important to have the hops in because at 4 IBUs it's not doing a lot, but you do need some hops in there then, do you think?
To call beer, you might have some hops. I have my technique, which I call single hop. I just grab a pallet and put a pallet and I single hop the beer. I don't think you need any IBU on this beer, but people go for 4 IBUs.
When you're doing that kind of thing with a hop, maybe you say it doesn't matter because it's not the star of the show, but should you use like a low alpha hop, like say something like SARS, and use more of it for your 4 IBUs, or it doesn't matter?
It doesn't matter because it's just too little hops. Back when you were brewing Berliner Weisse, maybe you had some protection against some contaminations using hops, but now it's not a problem anymore, right?
So when your fermentation's done then, so you've got your sort of sour beer with, it's probably quite horrible then, but then you add some fruit then?
It's not horrible.
It's still, without the fruit, it's still all right?
Yeah, I think it's nice. It's just a neutral basis, not much malt character, not hop character, just sour. 3.6 is not that sour. That depends on the residual sugar as well, because if you had really dry beer, the sourness stands out. But if you're 10-10, 10-12, it's okay. It's not 3.6.
So how might you control the pH then if you were worried it was going to go too low, would you?
Yeah, if you are using Lachancea, you just accept. If you are kettle souring, it's easy. You just measure your pH every 6 hours, and if it reach 3.6 or 3.5 or 3.4, that depends on what you want, you stop the lactobacillus by boiling the wort. But if you are using something like Lachancea, you just accept the final.
Yeah, okay.
You have no control.
There's bass on the white shield pump. I'll just put it on. Go on. So what stage do you add the fruit then? And how do you do that?
That depends on what are you gonna do with this beer. There are several brewers in Brazil that just serve the beer on the pub, and it's different if you are going to bottle the beer. If you are going to bottle the beer, you must put in the end of the fermentation to ferment the fruit sugars.
Yeah.
Because there are a lot of sugars. Depending on the fruits, rise the OG. Depending on the fruit, lower the OG, because some fruits there are a lot of water. Depending on the sugar content, the OG may rise or lower or get lower. But you normally do in the end of fermentation when you have this oxygen protection.
Yeah.
And you use around 100 grams per liter. It's a good starting point.
Yeah.
But depends on the fruit. Fruits like passion fruit, mango, guava are really good because they are really intense. Fruits like dragon fruit. Do you know this fruit?
Yeah.
Yeah. Fruits like dragon fruit are not as good as these other ones for aroma and flavor, but it's good for color. So, but there's no flavor or too much flavor for the beer. Some berries are really good because they are really intense in flavors. We don't have as many berries as you in Brazil, but we have a couple of berries there. There are some concerning fruits like coconut. Coconut, there are a lot of oils in coconut that can ruin the foam of the beer.
Okay. Yeah.
But go easy. Go with guava, go with mango, go with passion fruit, maybe some berries you have, like strawberry. Strawberry is really good.
Really?
Yeah, but you need a lot of strawberry to get a strawberry flavor.
That's interesting.
And then it will ferment the sugar, and you can use this enzyme called pectin to help.
Yeah, to clear it.
Yeah, and you have a couple of things to do with the fruit to help both the beer quality and distraction. One thing is to freeze the fruit.
Okay.
Because you break the cell wall,
Yeah.
and it makes easier to extract both the color and the flavors and kill the microorganism in beer. If you can freeze and freeze and freeze again, is even better because you broke and you broke again, and you are safe to use this fruit.
Does that kill the microorganisms?
Yeah, most.
Most. And the acid will do the rest, maybe.
Yeah.
Acidity. Yeah. So you do. That was going to be my question. How do you prepare it? Do you need to cook it or blanch
you
it?
never do this.
No.
No.
Not ruin it.
Yeah, because you lost the freshness.
Yeah.
Lose
Okay.
the freshness. And you can pick good fruits with no hurt, with no, how do you say when the fruit is hurted?
I don't know. What do you mean?
Like there's a scratch or
Oh yeah, bruised.
Bruised. Yeah. You rather pick this non-bruised fruits, or if you can buy puree, it's good as well.
Really?
But must be centrifuge fruits.
Right.
It's really good. It's a really good way. There's pasteurized pulp. Is pulp?
Pulp,
I think.
yeah.
Yeah, there's pasteurized pulp. Some breweries use, but it's not as fresh fruit, of course. And then you put on the fermenter, wait for the fermentation ends, and you can clarify and bottle in prime sugar or forced carbonate.
So would you put, if your fruit's in the fermenter, would you dump it out like a dry hop when it's finished?
Yeah.
Get rid of it?
Yeah. And if you are going to keep it cold, there is a better way to do, because you don't want to ferment the fruit sugar and keep this residual sugar to make a balance between the sweetness and the acid. So if you are keeping this in a cold room, you don't need to ferment it's like cask ale. If you are going to drink in a week, you don't need to ferment the fruit, and it's way better to drink like this.
Okay, yeah.
Because
So you put the fruit in and keep it in the vessel cold so it doesn't ferment then?
yeah, you put the fruit, give like 5 days to extract the aroma and the flavor, and you put the beer in the keg or the cask or whatever you want, and you keep it cold. You don't need to ferment, and it's really good because the fruit is way more fresh, and the fermentation process affects the color, reduces the color of the fruit, and reduces the flavor as well. Depending on the yeast, it might increase the flavor because of biotransformation. There are tiles in fruits, and if the yeast release tiles, you can release tiles of the fruit. But as a rule of thumb, fermentation makes the flavor goes down. Not that much, but it lowers down the.
So to do that sort of fresh style, then would you kill the yeast? Would you put metabisulfate in to stop the yeast, or?
Yeah, this is a way you can do, but it's not usual. So, if the brewery are just serving in kegs in the pub, normally just keep it cold. But if it's going to a bottle, it's completely fermented. And
You got me quite excited about this style.
Yeah,
now.
this is really good. What fruit do you have here?
What fruits? Strawberries are very good in a very narrow season, just for 1 month in the sort of June time. Berries, again, traditional English fruits, things like raspberries, blackberries at different times of the years. Blackcurrant is quite an English fruit. Gooseberry, that's sour already.
Strawberry is a good starting point, but you need to use a lot of strawberries to get the strawberry flavor. In my own experience, like 200 grams per liter. It's a lot.
Yeah, that is a lot.
And it will
like
not
a
get
soup.
as many color as you want, and will not get as many flavor as you want, but will be really good. I remember the very first time I brewed a sour beer with strawberry. It was 10 years ago, I guess, a really long time ago. And we were in this home brewing meeting, like a festival. I have my cooler with my tap and my beer, and it started to have a big line in front of my beer, and I was, oh man, that is what I want to do for the rest of my life. For strawberry sour beer.
Really?
Putting more than one fruit together is always nice because it's the same with hops. We have this aroma receptors in our nose and in our back nose here, and we have around 1,400 kinds of receptors. And if you have different kinds of flavors, you can saturate one receptor and start using another kind of receptor because are different molecules. So this is a way to rise the flavor, mixing fruits.
I've watched some videos about the complexity of taste and smell, and I think my brain melted halfway through. It's quite a science, isn't it?
Yeah.
What about your sort of cross-contamination and your fermenters and things?
As you boil, because when you are doing kettle souring, you will do this just before boiling. And after that, you rise the temperature and kill all the lactobacillus.
Sure.
So there's no problem on kettle souring.
What with the yeast though? I mean?
Lachancea, yeah. Just make a really good cleaning and you are okay. It's far worse ferment with saison yeast, which might be STA positive. This is a really worse contamination than Lachancea, I think.
Yeah, interesting.
Lachancea is just thermotolerant, it's not a sanitizer tolerant. This is just a bad joke. I'm sorry, I had so many beers so far.
So what temperature does it ferment at then? Quite warm?
Yeah, quite warm because you want this flavors coming from the yeast. That depends on the Lachancea you are using. Just follow the manufacturer instructions, but you can go in the higher end and you'll have a really good beer.
Very good. You're gonna have to give
Actually,
this a try.
you don't really need the esters from the yeast if you have a lot of fruits, but it goes well. It can enhance the flavor.
Very good.
Okay, let's make a deal. I will brew an English beer and you are brewing a Brazilian beer.
Yeah, well,
right?
That's a good idea. That's a plan.
Okay, I'm brewing a Bess.
We'll meet at Ascension Island and taste them
Yeah.
halfway. In our particular recipe today then, we're going 50-50 lager malt and wheat malt, OG of about 1040, 1039, something like that. And so that's 11 kilos of each. And we're going for a water profile, I'll put it on the screen here, which is a little bit higher in chlorides than sulfates, just to keep it nice and soft. We're going for a very low hopping rate of just 5 IBUs, almost a token amount of hops. But I have got some Brazilian hops, and they're a variety called Comet. So I'm going to use them just because they are grown in Brazil. And then instead of kettle souring, which we could do, we're going to use this Lachancea that Jamal mentioned in the shape of Lallemand Philly Sour. All we have to do really is stick that in, and it will start the fermentation by making the acidity, and then it will eat the sugars and make alcohol after that. Let's get cracking then, let's mash in and get this beer going. And also we need to prepare the mangoes that I've got for it. I'm going to use mangoes and a little bit of passion fruit puree as well. And we need to get them cut up and put in the freezer in advance as well. And then we're going to put them in mid-fermentation, which according to the Lallemand yeast instructions is the best time to add it after the initial acidity is formed. Right, in preparation for the Catharina Sour, I've got some of the Lachancea yeast that Jamal was talking about from Lallemand, but I've only got 3 packets. Does it work like other things? Just make a starter? I'm not really sure. I haven't got that far researching it, but I need more than 3 packets anyway. Haven't got time to order some in time for brewing it this weekend, Friday afternoon now. So I am going to try and make a starter. So I've got 3 litres of cooled down boiled wort in there. Right, I've abandoned my idea of using the Brazilian Comet hops because I've read the descriptors and Comet's really spiky, grapefruity, tart and lots of flavour, and that's not what we're looking for in this beer. We just want a very subtle hopping. So I'm going back to basics and got Magnum here, and in order to get just 5 IBUs, I'm putting in 21 grams, and as you'll see in a minute, that is not much. So that's it. 21 grams, token hopping. I'll go put that in now. Right, so the Catharina Sour is all in the fermenter, transferred it well, we've got a good volume in here, transferred it at about 25, 26, and although I made a starter earlier, I've decided to abandon that idea and pitch fresh dried yeast. Why? Because when I researched it online, it said it doesn't behave like other normal yeasts. You can't necessarily make a starter. It's very important to get the pitch rate exact, which is 1 gram per litre. So I've got all these 11 packets of Lachancea or Philly sour from Lalamand. So I'm going to give these a squirt now and get them in. And then, so what the yeast should do then is the first day or two, it's going to create its acid, and then when it's comfortable at a nice acidic a nice level of acidity, about 3.5, 3.6, it's going to start fermenting the sugar into alcohol. Right, it's the next morning and the Catharina Sour is bubbling away quite nicely. I wasn't actually expecting a lot of bubbling from this yeast for some reason. I wasn't sure what the process is when it makes the acid at the beginning, whether it does emit gas or not, but I'll have to look that up. Anyway, what I'm going to do is just keep an eye on the pH of it, because once it's gone past the creation of the acid, i.e. the pH is 3.5, 3.6, which is about where we want it, which is what you might call a gateway sour or an easy drinking sour, not too sour, then we can add the fruit, and if it's attenuated roughly halfway as well. So we'll give it a quick test. It doesn't taste too sour yet. pH is lowered, quite a bit. It was about 5.4 when we put it in the tank. So it's going in the right direction. But I think it'll probably be another 12 hours or so before it's at the level that we're looking for. I'll check the gravity as well whilst we're here. So it's not really attenuated much yet either, so 1039 was the starting gravity. But it's going anyway, it's working, so I think we'll just keep monitoring it like this, pH and gravity, and when it's either at 3.5, 3.6 pH and or about 1025 or so gravity, then we'll stick the fruit in. Super. Right, time to prepare the mangoes for the Catharina Sour. So what I'm going to do is get myself some foil to create a really nice work surface in terms of cleanliness. Because I've got no intention of boiling the fruit, soaking it in metabisulfate, or even pasteurising it. So those are the options that you've got. You can boil the fruit, but if you do boil the fruit, then you're going to take away some taste, and like the difference between, if you think about a fresh apple or the filling in an apple pie, the mush, it's going to be that kind of difference, and we don't want to lose those fresh aromatic qualities from the fruit. More gentle than that is to pasteurise it, keep it at 60 degrees for half an hour or an hour or something. That would be more gentle, it's a possibility. Freezing it will knock back some microbes, I suppose, but it won't kill everything. But we are going to freeze it to break the cell walls. So freeze it, ideally freeze it, thaw it, freeze it again, and then thaw it again. And that smashes the cell walls and lets the juice out into the beer. The other thing that, and what we're going to rely on, is the fact that you've got a pH of 3.5, 3.6 in the beer. So that will kill a lot of things, and we're going to be really super careful with our hygiene now whilst we're peeling them. We can spray the outside, and I know we're not going to use the peel, but just so it's not getting all over our hands and things, we'll spray this foil, knife. This is alcohol, by the way. And then I've got a clean freezer bag for fruit to go in. A bucket for my waste, and could really do with a board. Right, so mangs, I've got a very flat stone in, so I've got a bony knife, and I'm going to feel my way around the stone. Just see it there. So get a few bits and bobs from around the stone, but not a great deal. And then you can hedgehog these. And just scrape out the fruit. Right, last two. Reckon I've got any quicker now. I've done 300,000 mangoes. It's not a very ripe one. Massive difference when they're ripe to when they're not ripe. They're just hard like this, and they can hardly get the flesh off the skin. And paler as well, they go more orange when they're ripe, and you get much more sort of spicy tropical aromas and tastes in there, rather than sort of quite bland when they're unripe. But this is what it means to be living in Britain. If you're in Brazil, you can just walk outside and pick them fresh off a tree. They're bound to be nicer. But of course, mangoes don't grow in Britain, so they're always imported. And it's a miracle we can get of modern communications that we can get them at all, really. So we should just be grateful. And also, it's quite a job preparing the mangoes. It's taken me quite a while to do these. I think I had 30 mangoes. And in a minute, I'll weigh it and we'll see how much we've got. And then I have got some puree as well. So we can use puree and fruit. So, of course, naturally you'd think fruit's going to be best, wouldn't you? And I still sort of instinctively feel that, but if the mango is prepared into a puree with just fruit in it, that sauce with lovely fresh fruit, then it's probably pretty good quality. Now, I've got my puree from Booker's, and it's used, sold there. It's used for cocktails apparently. That one's missed the bag. Now, unfortunately, this puree from Booker's has got some sugar in it. This is it. 90% mango, 10% sugar, and nothing else apparently. So I suppose it's not the end of the world to have some sugar in a beer normally, is it? But what we've got to be careful of is the effect it'll have on this Lachancea yeast. Will adding sugar increase acidity? Of course, it may increase alcohol, but it could increase acidity, so we're going to have to tread carefully with them. But first of all, I'm going to weigh these, see how much weight we've got of the mangs. Right, so this is what 30 mangoes looks like, and that is 5.76 kilos, so nearly 6 kilos. I've got 6 kilos of mango puree, and 1 of passion fruit, which I was thinking of adding as well. So that totals up 13 kilos, which is, for a 130 litre batch, 100 grams per litre. So it's actually quite a light touch with the fruiting. So we'll add all of it. The only problem is my fermenter's already quite full. That could be a challenge, but we'll have to just cross that bridge when we come to it. Now I'm going to go and put this in the freezer so that it breaks the cell walls down, and then when we thaw it, they should be ready to release all that delicious mango flavour into the beer. Tastes quite sour now. It's gone quite sour. The pH is lower than I thought it would be. It's 3.2. A little bit unexpected. Let's see what the gravity is. 1027. So I think we can put the fruit in now anyway. So I've got an assistant here that's going to help us. Let's hope it doesn't go too Vesuvian. That's it. Hang on, hold it there. That's it. Super. Thank you. Right, I've also got my passion fruit puree and some 6 of these mango ones. So before I stick it in, I think we ought to have a taste. See what it's like. Actually, it does taste like real fruit puree, which it is. It's got a bit of sugar in, but actually it does taste alright. Now if I squirt this in, A, is there room, and B, will it go Vesuvian? Should we taste what the passion fruit one was like? Oh, that's quite tart. it's riding with activity. Shall I stick them all in now? Shall I leave some for tomorrow? Whip them in, mate. Very good. Be interesting to see what that goes like in terms of whether it goes more bubbly now the fruit's in there. It's quite nice and sweet now. And by the way, this is the mango that I've frozen, thawed, then frozen again. And oops, it feels really soft now and slippy. So hopefully that's broken the cells down so that the yeast and the can get all the sugars and flavours out of the fruit. So it'll be interesting to see how this turns out now. Excellent. Right, so after I put the fruit in a few hours later, it did go a bit berserk and kept ejaculating. So I had to put this bucket here. It's not really ideal when you're splattering that kind of a yeast all around the brewery in terms of contamination, but it is what it is now. So it's calmed down a lot now, so I'm going to take this off, put it through the dishwasher and put it back on and hope that it doesn't crawl out of here in the meantime. Super. There, that looks a bit better now, all cleaned up, doesn't it? And I've moved it from this port to just a little bit higher here, so hopefully it won't keep getting stuff in it. And it actually had lumps of mango in it as well, so could well have clogged, so it's a good job that I did clean it out. Still got a reasonable fermentation going on. I've had a little taste. It's quite sour, but you can definitely taste the mango. Whether it's enough mango, I'm not sure. Presumably a little bit more to come out the fruit yet. Looking good. Now I need to clean up this floor with some bleach and stuff to make sure that contamination's gone from the brewery. You don't really want that stuff floating around.
Do you think I can brew a bass as yours in Brazil?
Yeah, of course.
I don't have a Burton Uno set.
No, you don't need that though. It just makes a tiny difference.
Yeah. What should I do? Open my fermenter? Have some extra oxygen to the brewing?
Maybe. You don't have to open it a lot, just a little bit. Because you've got hot weather there and things, insects maybe, you know, you might want to just open a little port on the top, maybe cover it with a cloth, something like that.
What do you think about using nitrogen to push the beer, to pull the beer?
Yeah, I've done an experiment where I've put a beer in a cask and through the hand pull, and then I've done it through nitrogen, 70-30 nitrogen mix, and it takes away flavour. You said what to think about using nitrogen to push the beer, but remember, really, you don't want to push it, you want to pull it with your hand pull. So you might want to let nitrogen in or CO2 in.
Just to top it.
So you're the man that's going to bring cask ale to Brazil?
Yeah, probably yeah, because I have a huge influence on the craft beer scene in Brazil. Mm-hmm. Most brewers follow my channel and brew what I brew. So if I'm starting brewing cask ale, people will start brewing cask ales there. When I brewed my first mild one year ago, Brazil started to brew mild. That was crazy because no one have never. Oh, of course, someone might brew the mild, but most brewers have never heard about mild before. Mm-hmm. And suddenly there was mild everywhere. So that was crazy.
So mild is popular amongst craft brewing, home brewing, isn't it? But it's certainly not popular in the pubs. It's not a popular drink. It's rare for you to find.
I could find so far 2 milds on pubs, but no porters.
I mean, if we wanted a porter, I suppose Titanic would be my first thought for that plum porter they do.
Yeah.
But locally, just thinking straight away.
That's true. That's one of the biggest porters in Britain, actually, in Stoke-on-Trent.
Oh, thank you so much.
Get naked. Do it.
Oh, that's so nice.
This is from that tip.
Yeah, I believe you.
You've travelled from Brazil because this isn't typical.
Yeah.
I haven't got any kegs at all, they're all full. The only thing I've got is this 8 litre oxybar. So I've filled this, I've got it hooked up at 12 psi. I'm just giving it a shake to make sure it's fully carbonated. And basically, as I shake, more bubbles are coming through the dip tube and rising up through the beer, and it's carbonating, but I can see that they're getting fewer. In other words, the beer is getting saturated with the level of carbonation that it can achieve, the combination of being 2 degrees, 12 psi. 2.66, that should give me carbonate. Now soon, Jamal is coming back from Brazil, and I think he's going to bring a can of his version of this, or his interpretation of a Catharina Sour with mango. And obviously I want mine to be good. And the biggest thing I'm afraid of is that this one is going to be very muted on the fruit because his fruit's so fresh and vibrant and fecund and juicy and ripe in Brazil, and the fruit here is just rock hard or rotten, compared anyway. So when I was at the Beer X the other day, I visited the Charles Fairham stand, and they've got on some extracts, and some of them are hop extracts, but some of them are fruit extracts. They isolate the particular oils or whatever that give you flavour and aroma, and they've put them into a product. And I had a little taste of a drop of this in some water, and it was mangoey. Of course, that's what it's supposed to be. This is enough for probably about half of what I've got in there. I'm just wondering about topping up the mangoiness by sticking this in. But if I stick it in and it's horrible, then I'll have ruined it all. So what I need to do is try and get a drop into a glass and just see what it does to the flavour. So I'm going to try that now. Because one thing I don't want it to do is taste like too fake, because that'll kind of ruin the good work of putting the fruit in, won't it? So that is literally one drop. Better do a control as well. Right, so straight away there's a difference in aroma. It smells mangoey. It does smell a bit fake mangoey, but maybe that's just because I know. This is an untreated one. Well, actually, I much prefer it already with that in. Somehow, the fruit has taken over from the acid, and in this one, the acid is a bit more dominant. So, shall I stick it in? I think I will. Do you know, for a non-sour fan, I think that's actually going to be all right. On a hot day, hot summer's day, sun's shining, you're looking for something cool and refreshing, I think it might be all right. And I'm not a sour fan. Super.
Oh my god, I'm slacking now. I could have a whole pint though.
They say a pint pot looks quite small in your hand.
Oh,
So it's 1 every 5 minutes, right?
I was sort of joking, but yeah.
It's just otherwise the battery will go flat on the camera. We've got to really rattle them in. Emergency.
If I look fat in this video, you're going to have to edit it out.
Way
Can you
faster
can
than
you,
this.
Can you use AI to make me waif-like?
You can do that, I think, can't you? Well, obviously, I don't need
This is
that. So, Catharina Sour then.
This one was really good in Brazil. I hope it was as good as it was.
So I've seen your video on this. So if you, well, from what I can gather,
Shall I give you a quick rinse?
why not?
And I know sour beer is not a thing here. I hope.
Yes,
Yeah, Brett, you like sour beer, don't you?
I do.
You drink it voluntarily, don't you?
I did actually have 3 of these because I came away from the
A
lobby beer
gente
with 2.
tava
I gave one to my
analisando
stepdaughter.
cervejas aqui, eu
They're
esqueci
nice
de
little
gravar.
glasses, aren't they?
Agora é a minha. Agora, quer dizer, acabou de ser uma minha, né? Mas agora é que eu queria que eles provassem. É a que eu fiz especialmente pro Richard, que é uma.
It's clear.
Yeah.
That surprised me, because this is 50% wheat.
Okay.
Então eu fiz essa sour.
Christ. That's delicious.
Yeah.
That's really good.
It smells
It's
amazing.
the passion fruit is just
Cheers.
coming through loads. I think I can get the mango. It is mango and passion fruit, isn't it?
There are 4 mango strains here.
4 mango.
Because you have mango strains in Brazil.
Right. Okay.
If he walks out into his garden, the mango hits him on the head and bursts fruit.
I don't really get any mango. I'm joking. I definitely get mango, but what first hits me is the passion fruit.
Yeah.
But that is
Oh,
that is
really nice.
sort of that is just it's not massively sour either. That is what I would class is probably like an entry level sour. It's probably what
What's
is it
the
about
pH?
3.8 pH?
No, not at all. It's 3.2.
What? No, it's not.
But you've added.
Yeah.
Get
you've
my
added,
pH meter
But
out.
there is a secret here. Richard knows the secret. So, when it was done, I was like, maybe the English people are not ready for this sour, so I'm gonna use some sugar, non-fermentable sugar, no lactose,
maltodextrin.
maltodextrin,
Yeah. Okay.
and there's like 2 platos of maltodextrin here. 1.108 of gravity.
Okay.
10.8 of gravity of not too much.
It's really good. But I've got the blackberry one, which we can try a
But
little bit later
it's-
on. It's nice, but this is
And it definitely smells
it's
like
got it's got
The
that
fresh fruit is amazing, isn't it? It's really tangible.
chewy sweetness about it as well.
And I have a video producing this and peeling the fruits.
Yeah, okay. So you didn't not puree. You do it. You
No,
literally buy the fruit
yeah.
itself. Oh,
Yeah.
nice. Something really satisfying about doing that. It's a labour of love. You've got. It
Yeah.
takes a lot of time to get that stuff done. But I've got 3 kilos of raspberries from the garden from last year that I'm waiting when to use it. But it's just nice picking the blackberries for spending 3 hours out picking blackberries for a beer to go into a beer. It just I certainly wasn't peeling the blackberries, but people like zesting lemons for hours and hours and hours just to get a little bit in the back of a saison or in a sour. You just get that. It's in your face. You've got to go big or go home, haven't you? For how much? What's the size of the batch you did for this?
20 liters.
20 litres. How many mango? I know there's 4 varieties. So how many kilos of each variety? I'd say like maximum 1
I
kilo.
need to look the recipe, but it's not. It's a lot.
It was a lot. Well, it's probably
It's coming
30
through as a
mango,
lot.
25
Wow.
mango.
And passion fruit, because I can definitely get the passion fruit.
Yeah, not too much passion fruit.
Really, yeah,
but
because it's
too
really quite strong
yeah.
flavour. Yeah.
Passion fruit was just 4. But-
Really?
Yeah.
Okay,
but
so then it is
but
mango
They,
that I'm getting.
they were like this big.
Right, boasting about the size of his passion fruits.
And I
think I
took
should.
all the seeds off from the mango, from the guava, and from the passion fruit.
Hold on.
because-
Okay, so you got guava in there as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. Any more, folks?
3 fruits. And this is the label.
Oh, nice.
This is the most Brazilian thing ever.
I
Like,
need to show the camera.
it's the pure juice of Brazil. This is a Brazilian expression for.
But
Did I
in
say
a deck chair,
Reluctant to pour mine now because I don't think I can follow that.
how many mangoes have you got in yours?
About the same, but it's
How many
130
have you-
litres. So,
Okay. Have you got any guava in yours?
no.
Have you got any giant Brazilian passion fruits in yours?
Some passion fruit puree.
Is that a Dunkin'? That's donuts. Is it a funking puree or another brand?
Yes, I think it was. So I wanted one without sugar in, but it did have sugar in.
Oh, Richard, yours is more frothing.
Oh.
Oh, actually does smell very similar. Either that or Jamal's has
not
been
as-
left in the glass.
Not quite as powerful.
It's more sour, but it's the same pH.
What, 3.3 I think this was.
It's exactly yeah.
That's really nice. Yeah, it's a little more muted on the fruit, but it's still really fruity.
Good.
Really fruity. Really
Congratulations on
delicious.
your first sour. It's really good.
So
Oh, God, that's
So
mad.
when Jamal came last trip, October, I said, well, what's the style of beers in Brazil? And he was telling me about this Catharina Sour. So you can imagine on a hot day that would be in Brazil. Humid, hot,
Beautiful.
crisp, sour and fruity.
It's
Definitely.
really good, Richard. Really good.
Yeah.
That is the first sour I've ever made. So
And that's with, was that with Philly? Did you guys
Yeah,
use?
with Philly,
Did you
so-
use Philly
Yeah,
as well?
Philly as well.
I forgot to. That's good.
Really
yeah,
good
it definitely
Richard.
tastes more sour
So do you think
because
I
there's
should
no
have-
maltodextrin in
Do you
it.
think I should have added a bit of malt?
I don't.
actually?
For me, no, because I'm a bit like I want to go. I want to drink maybe this on and on. That maybe made me. I might get a little bit full on something that's a bit sweeter. Absolutely delicious though, both of them.
I think it's a good idea to add maltodextrin.
If you leave me several cans of each of yours, then I'll let you know.
There's 2 there you can have. Definitely.
I have 3 more in the hotel.
No, that's really good. I remember my first sour with Philly yeast. It was an absolute disaster. It's very temperature sensitive. When you add the fruit, make sure that the beer that you're adding the fruit into is the same temperature if you can. And I don't know if you've done that or paid that much attention to it, but I've found that adding when I pureed frozen fruit,
Right.
so it was clearly really cold, and adding something really cold, I think it just stressed the yeast.
Killed it. Well,
or
knocked
just-
it back.
Yeah, which I thought maybe if it was too hot, it might have been the case, but actually it was either that or it was something else. But I didn't have a particularly good first experience with that. But since then, yeah.
People
It's all
say
been okay.
Philly sour doesn't always go sour enough, but I actually had to add some chalk to this to get it back
Right.
up. I don't know if that's the
Most
right thing
of the
to
best
do.
Brazilian sours are made with Philly sour now.
Really?
Yeah, it's
Since I
There's-
started to use Philly sour, not Philly sour, but Lachancea, because there are a lot of strains. I have never done kettle sour anymore. I did not done kettle sour.
okay.
anymore.
So that's one thing I haven't done is kettle sour, and that's something I was going to do because people say not that bothered myself, but people do get a little bit sniffy about using Philly sour. It's not like a true sour. But
No,
I
that's
don't
not
think it really makes any difference. And some people would say that they can taste Philly sour. I can sort of see that. I can sort of taste Philly sour, but not having done a kettle sour, but I've done a mixed firm sour multiple times. I can sort of see what they're saying. It's a slightly different effect, but either way, they're both really good.
You know,
on-
but the thing is not just that it's easier to go with Lachancea, but the aroma profile goes really well with these fruity beers. So you have 2 things, not just it's easier, it's easier, and the profile you get is good, goes well with most fruits. So this is the reason.
Well, I think the tasting went all right, didn't it, with Jamal and Brett? I think my Catharina Sour, my first attempt, stood up okay against Jamal's. Jamal's probably was the nicer, in fairness, but then again, he's from Brazil. It's his beer, and this is mine. I'm quite pleased with my first sour. I don't think it's too harsh. Don't think it's too difficult to drink, but it is still a sour, and I'm still uncomfortable, I must admit. Yeah, very pleased with how it's gone. And when the weather, if or when the weather ever gets hot in the UK, I might well enjoy drinking this in the hot sun. Anyway, the whole project's been really interesting, really good experience, because I've learned about this beer style that I'd never heard of before. I've brewed it, I understand it now, and know how to do it better next time, perhaps. And also made a reasonable show for Jamal and Brett, who's also a sour expert. So I think it's gone okay. Loads of good stuff coming up on the channel. This project was a result of Jamal's original trip to the UK back in October. But as you know, we've got the 1,000-mile beer tour of Great Britain coming up with Jamal, and lots of big breweries to go around, including Harvey's, Theakston's, and Timothy Taylor. So keep tuned to the channel, like and subscribe, and all that sort of thing. And we'll see you next time for another frothing ale. Cheers.